Alright guys, hope you're all doing well, hope you're all keeping safe. Today I've got a few more things that I want to talk about in regards to the Division Heartland, including rogues, or rogue encounters, hunters. I want to talk about the Storm game mode a bit more, time to kill for NPCs, and a couple of little kind of bits and bobs that is just worth putting in the video for you guys to know about. Before we get into this one though, I do want to thank you all for tuning into my coverage of Heartlands. Obviously I've been covering the leaks at the moment. When we do actually get official news, then I'll be covering that, and then when the game comes out, of course I will be covering that. It does seem like a streamer game, if I'm being honest with you, so it's possible that I get into the streamer world once the game releases, which we don't know when it's going to be yet, although as I've said in a previous video, I think it'll probably be sometime in July or maybe a little bit later. But I really appreciate all of your support on my recent videos on this one. Now I think some of the details today that I wanted to discuss are probably going to make a lot of players happy, including myself when I heard about it. Others are new to the franchise, so it's going to be interesting to see your comments, and highly recommend you leave your comments in the comment section down below. And with that said, drop a like and subscribe to stay up to date with all of my Division coverage, not just Heartlands but the Division 2 when we hear more about that, hopefully at Ubisoft Forward event coming soon. And let's get into this. Alright, so in one of my first videos on the leaks of Heartlands, I talked about Expeditions and Storm, the two new game modes that are coming with Heartlands. So Expeditions being a PvE only kind of co-op game mode, although I believe you can do it solo as well. And also then we've got Storm, which is the PvEVP survival game mode. I believe this game mode is you have to be in teams of 3, and there's 15 teams, so over it's 45 players, and it's very much a survival Dark Zone-esque type collaboration, if you will. Now, some more details just to confirm on this Storm game mode. So you only start off with a pistol and a melee weapon, so very similar to how survival worked in the Division. And it's different to Expeditions in this game, the Expeditions game mode, where you can actually start with a custom loadout, which obviously makes grinding for components required for crafting much easier. Although that's what I've heard. And what I've seen is that in Expeditions you actually have you can fire a flare in order to get a loadout dropped onto the map for you. Actually reminds me of how it works in Warzone, where, again, I could be wrong about this because I've never played Warzone, it's not something that interests me, but I've seen some footage where you have to pay. You pay to have kind of like you get a certain amount of cash within the Battle Royale, and you can pay to have that loadout equipped or it drop for you so you can pick it up. It's kind of similar to that, I believe, in Heartlands, or it's either one or the other. Either you can start with a custom loadout, which is what I've been told, or well, I know for sure that you can certainly fire a flare to get custom loadouts. So there is that. So also on this on the Storm game mode as well, let me just have a quick look here. It says you can win by either grabbing a flare from a supply drop and using it to extract. There appears to be around 1 or 2 available extractions per match, or the other way of winning is by being the last team standing. And when I heard about this, I was like, well, it's last stand. So once the extraction is kind of off the table, I believe it reaches a certain point where extraction is no longer an option. And when that happened, it kind of hits this end game kind of thing or function that acts like a traditional kind of battle royale experience. The map is actually closed off into a kind of like a circle-like area. But just to remember, guys, that when it comes to the Storm in the Storm game mode, unlike traditional battle royales, which are kind of circle and then close in, this Storm is kind of freeform. It's unique to the Division, I believe, where it just kind of almost goes with the wind, right? And that's going to remain with this kind of battle royale endgame experience. So you'll be enclosing an area, but the Storm will move around that area wherever it wants. So you will expect to see kind of enemy squads coming into the circle. You're going to see gas mask plays be quite important because, and we'll get to, and some I've talked about previously, is you are going to have filter system where you have to keep applying filters in order to survive, especially when you're in the Storm, where it's going to be very important to get out of it, especially if you don't have a filter on. And it's basically down to the last man, the last squad, as it were. So yeah, and it kind of goes into this last standing mode, and if you the last group alive, then you win. Note that in expeditions, the exfiltration helicopter that you fire a flare for takes only about 30 seconds, so it's actually going to be much quicker than survival or Dark Zone is currently. So yeah, that's some more details about Storm, guys. It's interesting. It kind of mixes survival with the traditional battle royale experience, and yeah, I've got to admit, I'm looking forward to it. I will be doing a feedback video or feedback videos on all these different aspects of what we know so far from the leaks, and those will be in future videos. Now, moving on, rogues and hunters. So these have been confirmed by an NPC agent in the footage that I've seen. Rogue encounters are in expeditions. I don't know if they're coming to Storm. I'd be surprised if they are, because I can't think of anything more frustrating for a lot of players, especially PvP players, who will be going into Storm the majority of the time. Anything more frustrating than being in a PvP battle and then getting jumped on by rogues. I think that would frustrate a lot of people, but it might be in there, I don't know. And they're going to be similar to rogue encounters from Division 2, where they kind of just spring out of nowhere and obviously attack. I don't know how many rogues there will be per 3-man squad. That information is unknown to me at this point. There's also going to be hunters. And again, I don't know how these encounters come to fruition. I don't know if they're just in expeditions or if they're coming to Storm. I imagine it's just going to be expeditions, but I could be wrong. I mean, it kind of would make sense to have them in Storm the same way we had them in Survival. And the same for rogue encounters. It could make sense to work there. I just don't know if people are going to be particularly happy about that. I also don't think PvP players will be happy if rogues and hunters are not in Storm, and because, you know, most PvP players are going to want to go into Storm rather than to just the PvE environment, and they're not going to want to miss out on those encounters. But yeah, I don't know at this point. And yeah, you can kill hunters and you get extra loot and you get badges, and I think there's other vanity stuff as well that comes from that. So that was really good news to hear, because I was actually talking to Rogue Gaming, another content creator here on YouTube, about hunters. This was before I knew they were coming into Heartlands, and we were talking about actually having hunters in Heartlands. I even think he reached out to Terry Spire to say, look, I've got an idea, can we have hunters please? And it appears they're already there, guys. So yeah, there's that. Now moving on, this one might be controversial. From my understanding, there is bullet drop in Heartlands, and there's travel time as well, and from what I've seen, it looks to be quite, I don't know if extreme or insane is the right word to use, but it looks to be, certainly with snipers, you have to aim pretty high, depending on distance. At about 100, let's say 100 meters, you have to aim pretty high in order to actually get a headshot. But bullet drop and time travel. Travel time. Time travel, that would be crazy. Travel time. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about that in the comments down below. Other details. So in terms of time to kill against NPCs, it looks fairly slow. Especially against armoured NPCs. Now, my understanding is that when it comes to expeditions and when it comes to Storm and whatever it is, there isn't talents like you would in the Division 2 or the Division. There's not like a build that you can make, if that makes sense. You're not going to get, you know, different talents on different pieces of gear and all these crazy stuff to make you really powerful, right? It's just, there's 5 levels of gear, and each one has better stats than the other, but that's about your lot, right? So in terms of NPCs, the time to kill is fairly slow. Think of it of like, it's like having a bad build in the Division 2 on a heroic difficulty. That's what it looks like, although I would say for red bars it seems to be a lot quicker than that. And as well, at least from the available footage that I've seen, and again, this is all subject to change, guys, because this is an alpha, red bar NPCs appear to be very inaccurate, and even when they do hit you, it does seem to me as though the amount of damage they do is fairly small to your armor, which I hope that's the case, because this is something that I've wanted in the Division 2 and the Division for a long time, and I hope that that is what comes to Heartlands. But that's what it looks like so far. Next up, there is a kind of ping system. I don't know if you'd call it that. It's almost like an audio cue with voice acting. There is that often in the game. It's kind of, it appears to be fairly robust, very much like Apex and Warzone, where characters say when they're going to kind of run out of ammo. They say when they're getting shot at. You know, when they loot guns, they comment on the rarity. So you know, if you go and it's a standard issue and you've got some that's better than that, I always say, you know, standard issue is not better than what you currently have, or they'll say, look, come check this out, that sort of thing, when you throw down equipment. As well as if you can actually ping locations on the map, and it will say, like, you know, nothing specific, but let's go here, and that sort of thing. So something, again, you would expect from maybe like a battle royale type game mode appears to be included here in this survival game, which again makes sense, because you're going to be in groups, and to have that kind of system is good, especially when you're pinging locations. And also if you're playing on your own, it also makes sense, because I'll be honest with you guys, a lot of the time when I'm playing survival game modes, I'm not really looking at how much ammo I got and stuff like that. I'm too worried about other stuff going on. So having audio cues that say, look, you know, you're going to run out of ammo, etc., etc., is really good. Now moving on, health regen. Okay, so health does not regen unless you are playing a specific specialization, and you proc its special perk, and I'm going to presume that's medic, which has a perk which allows you to get armor regen. Otherwise, you can loot armor regen mods, I believe. So I don't know if they're mods or attachments. They appear to be mods that are fitted to your chest piece, and that will heal your armor back slowly, depending on the rarity of that mod. The highest I actually that's been seen, I believe, is a blue rarity armor regen mod that healed back about 2 armor. I believe there's 5 armor. So I think if you've got a you know, high end one, it will actually regen all 5. But it's a slow regen. It doesn't happen very quickly. Otherwise, you're going to need to craft, and you're going to need to apply armor, which costs materials to do so. And as I said before, in terms of crafting, you can do that on the fly, and it's fairly quick to do as well. Other than that, guys, that's pretty much it. There is some other details that I just quickly wanted to go over you guys and just confirm. So you can actually swap shoulders at any time. So no longer are you going to be bound to kind of the right shoulder at all times. The recoil appears to be just like the Division 2, so fairly easy to handle. And also, I believe if you pick up a high-end kind of weapon, it normally comes with attachments that have weapon handling, and if they're high-end, then it's 20% for each attachment. So that vastly decreases the recoil on the weapon and makes it much easier to use. And if you're on PC, I don't think you're going to have much of a problem on that. It's more of a console thing. In terms of sliding, I've mentioned before that there's sliding in this game, and you can slide and shoot at the same time. And I've also mentioned that there is a cover system, although it's not quite as robust as the cover system in the Division 1 or the Division 2. And I think that's there to encourage people not to use cover as much and actually to get out there, which is good. But you can slide into low surfaces, and it will automatically enter you into kind of the crouched cover. And lastly, guys, I've talked about mask filters before, which is one of the most important things coming out of this survival game mode is being able to constantly review where your mask filter is at, if it's run out, if you need to apply another, get materials, etc., etc. What I can tell, a standard mask filter, and I believe there might be levels to mask filters depending on how many materials you have. I could be wrong on that, but from what I've seen, a standard mask filter will last approximately 2 minutes before it needs to be changed, and I believe it's also going to require alloy materials from you. Although, again, from what I've seen in the footage, a standard expedition contamination, so these are not areas that are really highly contaminated, just your standard contamination, which is throughout the whole map, looks to take about 8 minutes before your poison meter reaches full, and I believe at that point you'll die, although I don't know for sure. I think that's the case. You can also cure your poison meter. It's actually called sickness in the game, once you've captured a shade beacon, and at the moment it costs 20 alloy to actually cure your sickness. That's not hard to come by. Alloy is found around the map from, you know, bags, wardrobes, just from all over the place. The same way you'd find materials in survival, or the better places is somewhat like the Division open world zones, where you just find bags and stuff all around and you pick up materials. That's kind of how it is in this game. And obviously the best places to go it's going to be like buildings and stuff like that. But that's it, guys. That's it for today's video. Do you know what, guys? I think that might be it for all of the Division Heartland kind of leaked stuff that I know about. I've watched the footage on this numerous times, and the last couple of videos that I've done have pretty much covered everything. If there is anything more to come from this stuff, then of course I'll let you know. If there's any official news, then I'll let you guys know, so make sure you've got notifications turned on. I think what I'm going to do from now, guys, in terms of Heartlands, is I'm going to probably provide some feedback and stuff on all the stuff that we've talked about, provide my comments to that stuff, get some polls out for you guys so you guys can talk about stuff and get kind of reactions to all of this stuff. And then it won't be too long before we hear more about Heartlands, I imagine, again from E3, from the UB4 event, and I imagine we'll also hear some more stuff about the Division 2 and what their plans are for Year 3. So that's it. Thanks very much for watching, guys. Until the next one, Epic out.